I'm not somebody you would think would be a critic of higher education. After all, I've been quite a consumer of it. I have a PhD in evaluation of education from Berkeley, subsequently taught there and at three other universities. Been a consultant to 15 college presidents, so made some of my living through that, written a number of books on college, which are not particularly critical of them. Um, but in recent years, as I learned more and more about what's behind the ivy, I have become convinced that many fewer students should be going to college. It certainly is the right choice for some people. Kids who, for example, are just love learning, and it's a good place to become a good, thoughtful citizen. Or sometimes when people are older, they're interested in learning about the big universals of life. Absolutely. And frankly, the designer label of a Stanford or a Harvard, notwithstanding all the problems I'm going to point out about higher education in general, that designer label still bears enough value in our society that that's probably not something that most people should turn down. But there are a lot of other people who the data and empirical experience suggests would be very wise to think three times before going to college or graduate school, law school, MBA, PhD certainly, etc. Um, I'll start with those two the categories. Basically, kids who have done poorly in high school, for example, the 200,000 students a year who so-called four-year colleges admit every year. Of those 200,000 students, only 40% of them will graduate from college, even if given 8.5 years. That's from the U.S. Department of Education statistics. Um, and so, averages are misleading. So if you are, were a low achiever in high school, but you really have a lot of, potential that was wasted, and you're really excited about going to college, and you're not going to let the sex, drugs, and rock and roll environment of being in a dorm with kids who are away from the home for the first time distract you, then certainly give it a shot. Especially at a community college. Community college is it's ironic, it's the least prestigious and the best value for the money on average, because on average the teaching quality is better. That may surprise you, but the more prestigious a university, the more likely the faculty is to be hired and promoted based on how well they do research, with little or no regard to how well they teach. Whereas at community college, teaching is job one. Um, colleges have a mammothly powerful marketing machine, both to the government that ensures that they increase the amount of financial aid, which by the way doesn't save you money, because when they raise the amount of financial aid, the higher ed, the business, the colleges say, oh good, now we can raise tuition. So don't jump so fast when you're asked to vote for candidates who are supporting increasing Pell Grants, for example. Um, and If you are a student who is going to be, however, who's your typical college student, the B to A minus, or B to certainly B to B minus to B plus student who is contemplating college, um, I want you to think about a couple of things. Number one, the statistic that students earn $1 million more over their lifetime. I don't know if this is getting too into the weeds, but it is so misleading. First of all, that statistic was created years ago, and it is retrospective. It is students in the past earned $1 million more on average over their lifetime. That was in an era when a far lower percentage of students went to college. And now it's 70%, the highest in history. A college degree is a yawner. Most employers are not, that's not going to differentiate you in the marketplace. Um, and Especially as we move forward, as more technology is required to be considered impressive. Um, Degrees in sociology, American studies, women's studies, art history, PE, psychology, etc., are going to be very much not impressive. Now, of course, you're going to tell me, sure, um, employers want that degree as a minimum, and you have to go beyond that, so why don't I just get a master's or a doctorate? And in some senses, that's true. We still live in a degree-bound society. But given the enormous cost of college and the four-year sticker price, of a brand name private college is $200,000, and many students, more students tend to graduate in 5 or 6 years if they graduate, and over half don't graduate even if given 6 years. But in any case, given the enormous costs, is that we have to take a closer look, first of all, at the $1 million statistic. As I said, moving forward, there's going to be a far smaller number of, far less of an increment to your income. But one of the other things they don't tell you is the pool of college graduates are far brighter, more motivated, and more connected than the pool of students who don't go to college. And so you could lock them in a box for 4 years, and they would earn more money. But we don't have to lock them in a box for 4 years. If you spend the 4, 5, 6 years in one of the following, whether it be an apprenticeship program at the elbow of an ethical entrepreneur, learning how to be an entrepreneur, starting your own business, learning on the job, and even the military, there's certainly a question as to whether it would be greater value. Now, it's going to vary with the individual, so I'm not saying don't go to college. I'm merely asking you to exercise conscious choice rather than to buy viscerally the statistic that says that you'll earn $1 million more if you go to college. One size does not fit all. It varies with the person. And there are many paths to the life well led. And especially with America's economy likely to have structural problems that are permanent, it may well be that the people who are going to survive and make a reasonable living are those who are going to be self-employed. And the most important topic the colleges don't teach you is self-employment. And so learning at the elbow of an ethical entrepreneur, or trying and failing yourself with small, simple businesses, may be a wiser way, if you have kind of an entrepreneurial instinct, a way to spend 4 years or 5 years. Now, I imagine that many of you are saying, but wait a minute, college is not all about career, and you're absolutely right. The problem is that study after study after study are showing almost incomprehensibly poor value added in terms of writing, critical thinking skills, speaking skills, etc. There was a recent publication January this year coming out of the University of Chicago Press called Academics Adrift. I think that's right. Academically Adrift. And it shows that almost half of students, this is almost incomprehensible, from freshman year through senior year, and that's excluding the ones who were weaker students who drop out after the first year, gain almost nothing, literally nothing, like 1 point on a 100-point scale in writing, critical thinking skills, etc. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, it's not surprising when universities, because they are businesses and they treat students as a cost center and research as a profit center, they're going to educate as cheaply as possible. So if they hire professors who are great at doing research but terrible teachers, many of them don't even speak English. There are many professors hired from overseas who are wonderful science and math and computer science researchers, but who don't have the English skills, let alone the teaching math, the gift of teaching well. And they certainly don't require you in the PhD to have much training in how to be a teacher. And of course, professors, by definition, there are people who have focused their life on arcana, that is detailed esoterica, that is really Grand Canyons away from what undergraduates need to know. So they're often teaching stuff that is not going to teach the critical thinking skills and the reasoning skills and the writing skills, public speaking skills. They're going to teach the arcana that those professors are passionate about the hermeneutics of Wittgenstein, or advanced theories in the molecular soup that is the protein expression of DNA, but not the things that human beings, that the vast majority of non-PhDs, non-scholars are going to need to know. Speaking of PhDs and scholars, Rand Corporation years ago, it's a non-profit think tank, already had identified a gross oversupply of PhDs, even in the vaunted fields of things like molecular biology. Well, there have been more recent studies that show that oversupply of PhDs is even greater. So, and yet colleges, it's unconscionable because they are businesses and they want to get students in there not only for the tuition but graduate students so they can be research slaves to the professors, continue to admit students into their programs without regard to how likely they are to be successful. And it's similarly true of law schools. Barbara Boxer, senator from California, recently excoriated the law schools for misleading information about the actual employability of law school graduates that they reported to U.S. News and World Report. So, first, 2 main points to sum up. One is I urge you to think 3 times before you just follow the herd and go to college or graduate school. Secondly, if you are in the process of contemplating it, I encourage you to ask smart questions. Ask questions like, here are my grades in high school and here are my SAT scores. Of students with my background, what percentage do graduate in 4 years? What percentage graduate in 5 years? How much value added, how much growth do students of my background get in reading, critical thinking, writing, etc.? Ask about financial aid. They are very obfuscatory about that. They're hiding it. It's very hard even on most college catalogs to even find out what the full sticker price of 1 year, including all the expenses, not just even tuition, room and board, let alone the 4-year or what is more relevant, the 5-year and 6-year costs of attending the college. Ask those questions, given your family's income and assets, because of course it's going to vary with how much money your family makes, and also it'll vary on your grades. Ask about employability. If I major, say, in journalism or in music or even in nursing, what is the probability that I'll be professionally employed within a year of graduation? Ask to see the most recent results of the student satisfaction survey that many colleges give. That'll tell you a lot about the student quality of life there. And ask to see at least the summary of the most recent visiting accreditation team report. That's the professionals' look inside of a college. I wish, really, that you didn't have to ask all these questions. One of my greatest wishes is that the government would mandate a college report card that would summarize that information and prominently put it on their websites. After all, government mandates far less important items to give full disclosures. Every tire has to have molded in its sidewall its tread life, temperature, and traction rating. Every drug that you take, prescription drug, has got a long insert with every imaginable side effect, no matter how rare it is. Even food. Every package of food you buy has how much calories, how much vitamin A, how much calcium is in it. Should we not require colleges, which is today the largest purchase that people ever make, sometimes even more expensive than a house given the housing price decline? Should we not require colleges, which by the way is not only the cost but the amount of time, 4, 5, 6 years, and learning a lot of stuff that you may not really care to learn or need to learn, or should we not require colleges to issue a college report card on themselves so that you can make an eyes-open decision about which college is right for you, and if college in general, given the studies, there's many students who should not be going to college. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. I'm Marty Nemko. I've written a lot about this stuff. You can go to my website, martynemko.com. You'll see a ton. Marty Nemko, it's MartyNemko.com. There's a link to my blog and many articles and my Twitter tweets. I'm an addicted writer. Okay, thank you for watching. Hope it was helpful.